No one knew she was crying between photo shoots. No one suspected that behind the glowing Instagram stories and red carpet smiles, Selena Gomez was falling apart in ways that words couldn't explain. At the height of her fame, when she was breaking records and setting beauty standards for an entire generation, Selena was also quietly being shattered not by fame itself, but by the illusion of perfection it demanded. What happens when the image the world worships becomes a prison you can't escape? How does it feel to be called iconic while battling the urge to disappear? Selena Gomez's story isn't just about success. It's about the invisible breakdowns that social media never shows. The haunting silence after the lights go off. The crushing weight of being strong for everyone but yourself. This is not the Selena the world thought they knew. This is the truth behind the pressure, the collapse, and the survival of a woman who was expected to smile for a world that never stopped watching. Are you ready to meet the real Selena Gomez, the one the spotlight never saw? Selena Gomez was born in Grand Prairie, Texas, not to luxury, but to loneliness. Her mother, Mandy Teefee, was just 16 when she gave birth to Selena, a teenager herself. Mandy was trying to navigate life with a newborn on her hip and dreams that would never fully materialize. Her father, Ricardo Gomez, left when Selena was just 5. The hole he left behind didn't just fracture a family, it fractured a little girl's sense of being wanted. They lived paycheck to paycheck, often choosing between food and fuel. Mandy juggled multiple jobs, working as a stage actress by day and waitress by night. She was determined to give Selena a better life. But poverty doesn't care about determination. Selena once said, "I remember my mom would run out of gas all the time. We'd sit there and pray for someone to stop and help." That's not the childhood of a future global superstar. That's the childhood of a girl learning that no one is coming to save you. Their small duplex had barely enough space for the two of them. No designer clothes, no elaborate toys. Just Selena, often alone with her imagination, playing with shadows on the wall while her mother worked late. And yet, she smiled. She learned early that smiling made adults more comfortable, even if she didn't feel safe inside. By the time she was 7, she began to realize the difference between her life and her classmates. She didn't get the same birthday parties. She didn't wear the same clothes. She didn't come from the same kind of love. Her father's absence was a wound that never quite scabbed over. Even when he'd occasionally show up, the distance between them never shrank. Selena carried that absence like an invisible bruise. But the hardest part wasn't the money. It was the instability. She saw her mother cry behind closed doors, tears Mandy thought she hid well. She watched her mom sell personal items to keep the lights on. She watched dreams get delayed, then denied, again and again. At some point, Selena stopped asking for things. She stopped wishing for more. She just focused on getting by. The irony? She grew up performing to survive not on stage, but in life. Making teachers like her. Making strangers think everything was fine. Learning to say, "I'm okay," before she even knew what okay meant. When other kids were planning playdates, Selena was watching casting calls. Not because she loved acting, but because she saw it as the only way out. Mandy, despite her own failed artistic aspirations, believed in her daughter's spark. So, they took a chance. They drove hours for auditions, waited in lines, endured rejection after rejection. And still, Selena smiled. She smiled when she didn't get the role. She smiled when kids at school whispered that she thought she was better than them. She smiled when her mother told her. Selena's escape from poverty didn't come as a miracle. It came as a slow grind of auditions, rejections, and small victories. At age 7, she landed a part on Barney and Friends. To outsiders, it looked like she was already made. A cute kid with a big smile on a beloved children's show. But the truth was less magical. The job paid little. It didn't guarantee stability. And when she was dropped from the show after 2 years, she and her mother were back at square one. Selena was 9 years old, already a veteran of disappointment. Most kids her age were still learning multiplication tables. Selena was learning how to keep her composure in waiting rooms, how to smile at casting directors who barely glanced at her, how to swallow rejection without letting it break her. Every no became another stone in the backpack she carried, but she kept walking. Mandy drove her from one audition to the next, the car sometimes breaking down along the way. They ate drive-through meals because they didn't have time for anything else. Selena did her homework in the back seat, in between rehearsing lines. It was exhausting, but it was also the first time she saw a glimpse of what could be, a life beyond Grand Prairie. At 12, she auditioned for Disney Channel. She didn't get the lead role she wanted. She didn't get the second one, either, or the third. But she kept showing up. She kept smiling. She kept believing, because she had to. Finally, in 2007, the door cracked open. Disney cast her as the mischievous Alex Russo in Wizards of Waverly Place. The show was an instant hit, and for the first time, Selena wasn't just another hopeful kid. She was the face of a franchise. The world saw a confident, witty girl with impeccable timing. They didn't see the anxiety attack she had before the first table read, or the nights she lay awake in her apartment, terrified she wasn't good enough. Disney fame is a double-edged sword. It launches careers, but it also locks you into an image you didn't choose. Selena was still a teenager, but she was expected to be a role model, a brand, and a business. Her life became a schedule. Filming, press events, rehearsals, charity appearances. Every time she slipped up, every mistake a normal teenager might make was magnified 1,000 times online. And yet, she pushed through. She started a music career while still filming Wizards, fronting a band called Selena Gomez and The Scene. She released albums, went on tours, shot movies, and launched her own production company. She was working harder than most adults twice her age. People called her mature beyond her years, not realizing maturity had been forced on her, not chosen. Behind the glittering headlines was a pattern. Every success carried a shadow. The bigger the show, the heavier the weight. The more adoring fans she had, the lonelier she felt. She was 17, and already running on fumes, already doubting herself, already fighting a silent war against the perfection Disney demanded. There's a moment she once described in an interview that summed it up. "I was on a stage, singing, and I felt so small, like the whole world wanted something from me that I didn't even know how to give." It wasn't the moment she broke, that would come later, but it was the moment she realized fame wasn't freedom. It was another kind of trap, shinier, but just as suffocating. For most people, this was the era of Selena Gomez's arrival. For Selena, it was the era she began to lose pieces of herself just to keep up. She had escaped Grand Prairie, but the further she ran from that small duplex, and the closer she came to a new kind of poverty, the kind where your soul is starving, even as the world tells you you've made it. By her early 20s, Selena Gomez had become a phenomenon that spanned television, music, and fashion. She wasn't just the former Disney star anymore. She was a chart-topping recording artist, an actress with blockbuster credits, a producer, and a global brand ambassador. Her Instagram following exploded past 100 million, at one point making her the most followed person on the planet. Headlines called her the voice of a generation. Magazine covers called her flawless. Young fans saw her as proof that dreams could come true. But inside, Selena was living a double life. The bigger the stage, the higher the stakes. Tour schedules stretched for months. Album deadlines overlapped with film shoots. Promotional campaigns demanded perfect photos, perfect interviews, perfect everything. She had become the centerpiece of an empire she couldn't step away from without disappointing millions. And every time she tried to slow down, executives, publicists, and even fans pulled her back with the same question: what's next? There were nights on tour buses when she stared at her reflection in a dark window and didn't recognize the girl looking back. She felt like a product, not a person. Her body bore the cost first: fatigue, panic attacks, unexplained health issues that would later be diagnosed as lupus. She would smile on stage, then collapse backstage, shivering from exhaustion. Success brought her power, but also isolation. Friends from childhood drifted away. Relationships became harder to trust. Everyone wanted something. Very few wanted nothing. She began to guard herself, to shrink her circle, to hide behind carefully curated captions and polished images. The brighter the spotlight, the darker the shadows grew. Yet to the world, this was peak Selena. She was releasing hit singles like Come and Get It and Good For You. She was starring in films that broke her Disney image. She was launching philanthropic initiatives, speaking out about mental health, becoming a rare celebrity who seemed both relatable and untouchable. Fans projected their hopes onto her. Brands projected their profits onto her. She tried to be everything for everyone. She once described it like this: "It felt like I was giving pieces of myself away, and nobody noticed I was disappearing." That's the paradox of her success. She had everything she had once prayed for in that broken-down car with her mother: fame, security, influence. And yet, the peace she longed for remained out of reach. Even her online kingdom, the 100 million plus followers, the endless likes, became a source of pain. Every post was dissected, every expression was judged. People compared her to impossible standards, to filtered versions of herself, to other stars who seemed happier or healthier. Social media had given her a direct line to fans, but it had also created a hall of mirrors she couldn't escape. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't a single moment when the lights shut off and everything fell apart. Instead, Selena Gomez unraveled piece by piece, slowly, quietly, invisibly, until she could no longer pretend. In 2016, Selena canceled the remainder of her revival tour. Officially, it was due to anxiety, panic attacks, and depression symptoms tied to her lupus diagnosis. Unofficially, she was breaking down. The girl who had smiled through every stage, every spotlight, every red carpet, finally couldn't do it anymore. Behind the press release was a hospital room, a locked psychiatric facility, a complete mental and emotional collapse. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I started to have panic attacks right before getting on stage, or right after leaving the stage, she later confessed. She had been trying to outrun her pain for years, using work as a distraction, using fame as armor. But pain doesn't wait forever. It catches you. And when it did, it brought her to her knees. For months, Selena disappeared from the public eye. No Instagram posts, no interviews, no music, just silence. And instead of compassion, many fans grew restless. The tabloids speculated. Gossip accounts theorized. Was it rehab? Was it drugs? Was it a stunt? What they didn't see, what they refused to see, was that Selena wasn't hiding from fame. She was fighting for her life. The pressure of being everything for everyone had taken its toll. Her mind was spiraling. Her body was shutting down. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't breathe without feeling like she was suffocating under the weight of 1,000,000 expectations. Even worse, social media had become a mirror she couldn't smash. Every scroll showed her a version of herself that felt fake. Perfect selfies, glowing headlines, filtered smiles, none of it matched what she felt inside. She started comparing herself not to others, but to the version of Selena the world had built for her. a version she no longer recognized. In 2017, she underwent a life-threatening kidney transplant due to complications from lupus. The operation saved her life physically, but emotionally, she was still drowning. "I was so far gone, I didn't know if I'd make it back," she once said. Then came the heartbreak. Relationships that collapsed under pressure. Public breakups that played out like circus acts in front of the entire internet. The most talked about was her split with Justin Bieber, an on-again, off-again romance that had become a tabloid obsession. When he married someone else, the internet exploded. Memes, mockery, comparisons, hate. Selena was still grieving, still fragile, still recovering, and the world turned her pain into entertainment. She described the emotional toll as being like mentally tortured. She wasn't being dramatic. She was being honest. And yet honesty, in the digital age, is a weapon others use against you. At one point, she deleted Instagram from her phone. Not because she hated her fans, but because she couldn't survive another day of being online. She later said, "Selena Gomez didn't rise from the ashes overnight. Healing wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a montage of inspirational quotes and morning yoga sessions. It was grueling, private work therapy, self-confrontation, and letting go of the illusion that she had to be perfect to be loved." She began by disappearing. Truly disappearing. No cameras, no stylists, no curated posts. For the first time in her adult life, she allowed herself to be just Selena, a young woman in her 20s, bruised but breathing, without a plan beyond survival. In therapy, she faced the parts of herself she had avoided for years. The child who learned to smile through hunger, the teenager who felt she had to earn love, the adult who built an empire but lost her sense of self. It wasn't pretty, but it was real, and for the first time, real felt better than perfect. She deleted Instagram from her phone and handed control of her accounts to her team. She began to speak openly about her struggles with mental health, not as a marketing tool but as a survival mechanism. Each admission was terrifying, each interview a gamble. But something remarkable happened. Instead of turning on her, many fans leaned in. They saw their own pain reflected in hers. She once said, "I've stopped trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to be present." Slowly, the noise in her head quieted. Slowly, she began to choose herself over the machine. Her lupus was still there. Her anxiety still visited. But she learned to set boundaries. She learned to say no. She learned that being enough had nothing to do with numbers on a screen. In 2019, she released "Lose You to Love Me," a song that sounded less like a breakup track and more like a rebirth hymn. It wasn't polished bravado. It was raw confession. The lyrics traced a journey from self-abandonment to self-acceptance. Critics called it her best work yet. Fans called it their anthem. And for Selena, it was proof that telling the truth was more powerful than maintaining an image. She also shifted her focus to projects that mattered to her on a deeper level. She produced 13 Reasons Why, sparking global conversations about suicide and bullying. She became a vocal advocate for mental health resources, launching initiatives and partnering with organizations to expand access. She used her platform not just to promote music or movies, but to dismantle the stigma she had lived through. Offstage, she built a quieter life, a tighter circle of friends, regular therapy sessions, journaling, cooking, family time. For the first time, she didn't feel guilty about resting. She didn't feel ashamed of not posting. She didn't feel like she owed the world every moment of her existence. Her faith deepened too. We live in a world obsessed with rise and fall stories. But what about what comes after the fall? What about the quiet rebuilding? The long, unseen work of learning to live again not as an idol, but as a human? Selena Gomez's story is not one of flawless triumph. It's one of raw survival. She didn't defeat her demons with a single comeback. She lives with them, she talks to them. And some days, she still fights them. But maybe that's what makes her journey so powerful. Because behind every filtered photo is a battle no one sees. Behind every smile is a story that isn't always ready to be told. And behind every public breakdown is a private decision to keep going when everything inside says stop. Selena chose to stay, to rebuild, to speak, to stand not as a perfect image, but as a mirror for others struggling to find peace in a world that rarely allows it. So, now we ask you, how many Selenas walk among us right now, smiling on the outside, breaking silently inside? And what would happen if we stopped expecting perfection and started offering grace?